Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Matt Storrs, and welcome to Mattsplaining. On today's episode, I have an expert on who I'm very excited to speak with. Expert, please introduce yourself and tell us what you're an expert in.
Hey everybody, I am Elizabeth Holden, aka Antimatter, and I'm an expert in roller derby.
Fantastic. I think that roller derby is one of the greatest American pastimes, and it has its lineage going back decades, if not millennia, to some of the most combative sports, some of the most community focused sports, bringing people together, people recognizing that the only way to fight back against the authoritarian regime is to join a roller derby team and then slowly make people realize like, yeah, maybe we are in an authoritarian government. And I think that when today's modern roller derby, since the revolution, I think that what we kind of commemorate that similar to other derbies in our society. So famously, we have the Kentucky Derby, one of the most interesting roller derbies. And there, what most people are going to be wearing are very bright tropical colors, very bold hats. Some of the participants, they're wearing more helmets. The
Yeah,
participants
yeah.
wearing more helmets and,
Slightly different. Yeah.
slightly different, but
Yeah.
still with the opportunity to show off their personalities. You might have stickers, you might have some people might have frill or tutu, they might dye their hair, they might have some interesting things on their protective gear, elbow pads, knee pads, what have you. And the people in the stands also very, very likely to show off, whether it be their own hats, usually not necessarily a protective hat, but sometimes it can get a little rowdy when people do start remembering the revolution and what we had to sacrifice from our roller derby participants to grant us our freedom. And so I think that that's a pretty important aspect. A lot of times, the roller derbies, they used to be outside. Some are traditionally still conducted outside, but I think that it's important for safety purposes. If people are blocking or knocking people into things, that we've moved it inside with more safe and secure methodology. Famously, like in hockey, there's the plexiglass around the sides. With most roller derby currently, there's yoga mats, and yoga mats are handed out to the participants in some of the smaller scale, the ones that are outside of the arenas where they don't have the funding to put up the yoga, it's a very hard thing to put up a yoga mat and still allow people to see. So what they'll do is they'll hand out the yoga mats to people, and then as somebody gets knocked over the railing, you put up that yoga mat and
Oh
you
boy.
protect yourself. And I think that that's one of the most efficient ways to balance out the ability to see as well as the safety of the roller derby participant and the audience. And I think roller derby is also very important just from like a cultural perspective. I've alluded to the revolution and everything like that and the commemoration that we have anytime we come to the roller derby and the sacrifices that people have made. But also we have interesting dynamics in terms of people's ability to name themselves and how important that can be and how invigorating it can be to choose your identity and choose what you want to represent yourself as, because we don't always get that opportunity in life. And being able to do that and then embody the type of persona that you want to have, whether it be different means of dress, different means of your aggression level, whether it means the intensity that you're playing and participating in, that is something that I think is really, really fascinating and really powerful when it comes to roller derby. And I think that people, even in the audience, you come in and you're buying into this collective consciousness. So I think that it's a really welcoming place, it seems. And yeah, that's pretty much all I know. Based on what you've heard so far, about how much of that would you say was accurate?
Well, I mean, I'll start, Matt, by saying that was all deeply strange. And I know there is a 1975 movie called Rollerball that's sort of
Okay.
post-apocalyptic that has
Okay.
some like fighting and roller skates, and I assume maybe that involves a revolution.
Okay. So that
That's
wasn't
about all I got. Yeah, I was
okay.
like, what movie is this coming from? I don't
Okay, so
know.
that wasn't a documentary film, is what you're
It was
saying.
not. It was
Okay.
not actually. Yeah, there I will say so I'm a teacher,
Hmm.
and I would say if this was like one of my students' exams, I'd
Hmm.
be like, okay, you've got some points, but you're definitely gonna fail because it's
Okay.
mostly bullshit. So yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I do agree there are elbow pads and
Okay.
there
Great.
are personas, and it is very welcoming.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
but the first thing that I want to tell you and anybody listening is that it's a legit sport.
Mm.
It is, because I think it used to be roller derby was kind of fake. I mean, it was real roller skating, but it had sort of a WWF sort of fake fighting, fake outcomes, a lot of outrageousness in that way. And so when you talk to people who watched it a long time ago, I don't know, decades ago, they think, oh yeah, it's all fake and you're elbowing people in the face. And it's not. There was sort of I want to say revolution, but I'm meaning it very differently. A rebirth of roller derby in the early 2000s, starting in Austin, Texas, and treating it as a legitimate sport. And it sort of grew out from there. Modern roller derby comes from Austin in the early 2000s. My league, Madison Roller Derby in Madison, Wisconsin, was one of the founding leagues of the Women's Flat Track Derby Association.
Okay.
And so this is our 20th year.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
yeah. And it is basically, it is a contact sport. It is on skates. The other thing that you didn't say, but I think was sort of implied in what you were saying, is picturing it with a banked track where the track sort of slopes from the inside to the outside so that there's sort of
Hmm.
a ledge you could fall off of. We do still have bank track, and that is kind of how it started originally decades ago, like in the 50s, 60s, 70s. But way more common in modern roller derby is flat track derby, where we just play it on concrete or on a wood
Oh, wow.
floor. And as you can imagine, it's way easier to play roller derby if you don't have to set up a special floor. So we just have a concrete floor in our venue that we play on, set down a track. Yoga mats not involved. I guess
Interesting.
technically some people might be sitting on them, but otherwise no. And so yeah, we play it by, there are 5 people from each team on the track at a time.
Hmm.
And there's one on each team called a jammer. They wear a star on their helmet. And
Okay.
they are the ones who score points. There's no ball. Again, also unlike Rollerball, the 1975 post-apocalyptic film, there's no ball in modern roller derby. The jammers score the points by lapping the opponent's blockers.
Okay.
Blockers are the other 4 skaters, and they're there to stop the jammers. They stop their opposing jammer, and they help their jammer by knocking the blockers from the other team out of the way. And so they go at this pretty hard. It's on an oval track. It's pretty intense. 2 minutes. The jammers are trying to skate laps. Blockers are trying to stop them or help their jammer. And then at the end, like, it could go as long as 2 minutes. The jammers could end it early if they choose to. I don't want to get in the weeds too much. But then at the end of that, what's called a 2-minute jam, they leave the track. We get 5 more skaters from each team, and then that repeats. So typically players are going out anywhere from like every other jam to every 4 jams. The jammers are usually going out less often because they get more tired because they have to fight through everyone in skate laps, and the blockers maybe go out a little bit more often. So
Fantastic.
yeah, it's a contact sport. It's hard hitting. We're roller skating. We do have helmets.
Hmm.
We do have personas. That part was right. Although I think when it first came back in the early 2000s, it was a little bit campier, but it was
Okay.
still a legitimate sport, but it was a little bit more fishnets, tutus, that sort of thing. Nowadays, that's kind of been a general trend away from that, but we still have some aspects of that, which I really like. I think this is not a sport like, I don't know, soccer or something like that. It is different. It is, I introduce myself as antimatter.
Right.
I'm an aunt. I have 2 nephews and I teach physics.
Oh,
So that
that's
was the derby
amazing.
name I chose.
That's
Yeah.
oh, that the revelation of what that is beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, so I mean, we like the puns, and we like, a lot of us do have dyed hair, piercings. It's sort of a alternative sport. Like, a lot of us, some people get into it who've been athletes all their lives. Other people, like myself, never played a team sport. I joined when I was in my early 30s and had never played a team sport before. And people come to it kind of in all different ways. And it is a little bit more counterculture-y, but it is also, I think we all kind of got sick of a lot of articles about derby players, and the kind of the first 10 years of it would start with like she's so and so by day, but at night she has this other persona. Oh, and she's mild mannered so and so now becomes. And it's not really that, because we're kind of bringing our whole selves the whole time. It's not a separate alter ego. It's just my name for this sport, in the same way that you might go by a different name in a different environment. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Like, for instance, I'll say that at work, I will be Matthew, but for every
Yeah.
other scenario, it's Matt.
Yeah, I was going to give the example. Well, my nephews call me Auntie, and then I'm like, no, but the whole point is then everyone calls me Auntie at Derby as well. So it's not a great example.
Oh, good. I wanted to ask one thing. How many folks are on the team usually?
So for sanctioned games, like to count in our rankings, you can only have 15 people rostered for any given
Okay.
game. But obviously then we have more than that on a team, because injuries, alternates, etc. And it really varies. There are some small leagues around there. My league probably has, I don't know, 80-ish people, something like
Okay.
that, because we have an A team and a B team, and we have some home teams who will play each other in exhibition games. So yeah, and then there are also leagues that barely have enough people to field a team, or have to combine with other teams. And then there are really, really big leagues, like New York is really big, Portland is really big. So
That's fantastic. What first
yeah.
drew you to roller derby?
I will be honest with you, because this is supposed to be an entertaining podcast. I was single. I went to a roller derby game for something to do, and I looked around at the crowd and I thought, there are a lot of attractive people in this crowd. I like this sport.
That's the best way to get attracted to any sport, I feel.
I was like, I like this. I think I've always also liked, I did dance when I was a kid. I like being on stage. I like being in front of people. I like dressing up. And I wanted to meet more people. So I kept going to games, and I thought it looked really cool. And I spent years thinking it was cool, but I don't have a big, strong roller skating background. So I was like, how could I try out? But then they started a rec league where anyone could join, and they'd teach you how to play. So I started in that. And I think the only reason I actually got started with it is that my sister said she was joining. And I was like, well, if she joins, I'm going to be too jealous. So I have to join. So
That's fantastic. And so
yeah.
how long have you been doing it now?
Since 2015. So that's
Okay.
when I started in the rec league. So like they don't let you hit people on day one.
That's unfortunate.
Thank God. It isn't though. You get out there and you realize the last thing I want to do is be hit by someone when I don't even know how to stop,
That's a good
anything.
point. That's a good point.
Yeah, I know. I had a friend who was like, well, I'd like to try it, but I really just want to see, I want you to hit me as hard as you can, and I want to see if I can take it. And I was like, I can't do that, man. Yeah, so then I've been playing with my team since 2016. So
That's fantastic. Have you found that participating in roller derby has kind of influenced other aspects of your life? Has it like kind of bled into your teaching or like your creative
yeah,
or
absolutely.
like
In multiple ways. Yeah. So one thing is I teach at a university, and another professor here also plays roller derby, just by coincidence. And so I'm having her come to my class, and we're going to put on skates and hit each other and do some demonstrations of momentum conservation in one of my classes. And then I also am a writer, and I have a young adult novel coming out about a teenage girl on a junior roller derby team. That is called Mighty MILLIE NOVAK, and that's coming out this August.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's so exciting. How long did it take to come up with that concept for the novel?
Well, 2020, my league had to shut down for a while, and I was just laying on my couch, depressed. I'd go down into my basement, do yoga, weep, swear. And so I was just like, I missed my league, and so I guess a yoga mat is involved in this story a little bit. I was crying on one, and I missed my league. I missed the camaraderie. I missed the physicality. Like, you get used to playing a contact sport and taking those hits. Like, there's nothing better than when somebody comes up skating fast and hits me and they fall down. There is not a better feeling in the world. And, I missed that contact and that socializing. And I kind of had this idea floating around for, I should write a novel, a YA novel. And it just all came together. And I wrote the first draft in about 3 months in the summer of 2020.
That's absolutely wonderful. This is so great. I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm so excited to check that out when that comes out. If people wanted to learn more about you or learn more about roller derby, where would you recommend that they go?
I would definitely send them to elizabeth-holden.com. It's spelled probably how you think it's spelled, ELIZABETH-HOLDEN.com. You can also check out my league at madisonrollerderby.org.
Fantastic. Elizabeth, this has been so insightful, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you for having me. This was great.
Wonderful. My name is Matt Storrs, and this has been Mattsplaining. Before we go today, I want to thank Ryan Lawson, my dear friend, for making the theme music for Mattsplaining. Ryan can be reached at beatblenderstudios@gmail.com or at Beat Blender Studios on Instagram and TikTok.